Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Open Tabs podcast. My name's Joe,
My name is Billy.
and we are coming at you with episode 22.
Wow.
Welcome to
Here we
episode
are.
22. Okay, to get us started off, Billy, I got to ask you, would you rather be on stage in front of 1,000 people or at a 20-person barbecue?
Wow. Would I rather be on stage in front of 1,000 people or at a barbecue with 20 people?
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
don't
It's
explain
not
it. Just give me the answer. Just pick one.
it's not a clear-cut answer. I think it's the first. I think I'm more comfortable on stage in front of 1,000 people than actually mingling with 20 strangers. Is that a crazy answer?
It's not a crazy answer. I feel the exact same way. And
Really?
that is the perfect segue into what we're talking about today.
Oh my goodness.
Today's topic is two introverts walk into a podcast. How do you like that? So
you
we've
would
talked,
think the second one would have ducked.
yeah.
Lord.
So we've talked about this a lot. The fact that we're not necessarily your typical introverted human beings. Um, and so we thought we would today, folks. We thought we would go ahead and address this idea of being an introvert, being an extrovert, being something in between, what they call an ambivert. Um, and we're going to talk a little bit about some misconceptions because Billy and I both, I think, well, I will be honest, I would not have ascribed to the introvert label probably until I was in my 30s. Um, like my mid 30s. So probably within the last 7 years is when I started to realize, wait a second, maybe I'm not exactly who I thought I was. So 1,000 people, why would you choose to be on stage in front of 1,000 people instead of being in front of 20 people in a barbecue or around 20 people in a barbecue?
I think it's kind of similar, which on a side note, I've always heard that when they do studies, the number one biggest fear is public speaking. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds like it's probably true. I don't have a problem with public speaking, but on stage in front of 1,000 people, it's probably similar to this. This
Right.
could be 1,000 people, but there's this distance. It's essentially it's one directional, right?
Hmm.
Although in front of 1,000 people, hopefully you're getting some sort of response, your
Hmm.
energy, vibe, whatever.
Right.
But the one-on-one with a stranger or with, oh gosh, 20 strangers, now I don't have a microphone. I'm not on a platform. I'm not in front of a camera. I'm just face to face.
Hmm.
What do I say? What if they don't like me? All those things become, it's not that they don't exist on the stage, but now they're real.
Right.
Face to face, now they're
Right.
real. You know what I
Right.
mean? How about you?
Well, I agree. And I would say that I would get tons more energy being on stage in front of people because I know that about myself. I love being on stage. I love performing and I get tons of energy from that experience. I get really, really drained when I have to have individual conversations with multiple people in a setting where there's a lot of people around. And a lot of times, I think introverts get a bad rap. Like they don't like people, they're anxious,
Mhm.
they're whatever, and that's not the way that it works. And I try to when I've taught workshops on this before, introversion and extroversion, all it means is how are you recharged? How do you get
Mhm.
plugged in and your batteries recharged? Extroverts, they get a lot of recharge by being in a large mass of people. So, at a concert, in a lecture series, in a crowded bar, extroverts feel energized by that kind of experience. Introverts feel more energy by being in lower key, less populated experiences. So, a lot of times they recharge by themselves.
Yes.
But it really has nothing to do with whether or not you're sociable, whether or not you're good at speaking in front of people, or whether or not you are typically the kind of person who can be, um, let's say, outgoing or boisterous. Maybe not outgoing is the right word, but boisterous.
Mhm.
And so that's why you find a lot of like stand-up comedians end up being introverts, and you wouldn't think that from what they do, but they really just do need to be alone sometimes. Um, and it's funny because, like you said, we've spent the last 22 weeks talking into microphones, and it's just an interesting duality, if you will, that you've got people who are great in front of people, excited about being in front of people, energized about being in front of people, but also need to just be by themselves in order to recharge.
That's right. And it's like you touched on it. It is a very common misconception. Introversion is not the same as shyness, and
Right.
it's also not the same as social anxiety. So shyness involves fear or tension about social judgment, right? While
Hmm.
introversion, it's about just preference
Right.
for lower stimulation and more of an internally directed focus, right? An introvert can be just as socially skilled and enjoy people, but just need the downtime afterwards. Like, prime example, I had a very uh, well, for me, it was wonderful, but draining, a very social public event on Saturday, which was a 5K followed by a music festival concert. What did I do Sunday? I recharged almost the entire day alone. Not
Hmm.
because it was a bad experience, but that's the way I recharge. And I was outgoing and I was engaged, but I had to recharge on the other side of it. So it's not a shyness. It's just being more directed inward on how we, like you said, how we recharge. Whereas a shy person, they might want more social interaction, but they just feel inhibited. And there can be that degree of shyness or social anxiety, but it's not introversion. That's the personality. That's how we're wired, right?
Yep.
So, and it,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and you could see a wallflower who really just enjoys being in concerts, but maybe doesn't really want to be talked to. Well, that
Hmm.
person could very well be extroverted and they're just shy. So you can have an extrovert that's shy. You know, that phrase, they've never been a stranger, that's not necessarily true of every single extrovert out there. What I read this week, and it was very interesting because it mirrors my own experience very much. And I actually looked into some of the reasons behind it. Um, I was very, very much an outward, outgoing, um, what I thought would be an extroverted person all through my teens, into my 20s, and even into my early 30s. You would have pegged me for an extrovert through and through, right? Um, but as I've gotten older, I have really like moved more towards the idea of being introverted or alone. I crave solitude more. And the feedback I got was, it may be, and this I think happens to a lot of people, is as they get older, they kind of move more to the center line. And the center line is
Mm,
what is called an ambivert, which means it's somebody who can gain energy from being around other people and can gain energy from being in solitude and can equally be drained by both of those things as well. And so I think a lot of people probably as they get older, they fall into this more centrist, if you will, view of it where there are always going to be activities that are draining for me that may involve social interaction. And if I spend too much time by myself, I'm probably going to start to go the other direction. It's kind of like if you leave a phone plugged in back in the day before you had your smart charging technology, you
hmm.
could leave something plugged in too long and it would swell up, and then the battery would just explode or go bad. So I'd imagine that if you're plugged in too long in any way, shape, or form, it's not good for you. So you've got to be able to be in those different environments to be balanced.
Right. And until this episode, I'd never heard that term, ambivert. And you brought it up in preparation for this episode. And so here's a short working definition that I found. An ambivert is someone in the middle of introvert extrovert spectrum who can enjoy social time and alone time and shifts based on mood and situation.
Hmm.
But that the fact that there is a term for that uh, makes sense. A person doesn't have to be categorized into one or the other. I mean, we don't have to be ever categorized, but um, there's some people like me who I am 100% by nature introverted and I have to work to be extroverted. But then probably many people are probably kind of in the middle. They go both ways, right?
Yeah. I do think you swing, because as I have swinged. Anyway, as I've
Swang.
moved more towards the middle of being more closely aligned with introversion, and I would say I've actually gone the other direction. So I may have started, and um, what I think it was for me was societal pressure, just the environments that I found myself in, what I saw as what was highly valued made me kind of want to be extroverted because that's what I saw as um the way that I would get attention because I do like attention. I certainly
Mm,
like attention. And so that's I thought they played together. So
mhm,
as I've become closer to who I am, as my need for attention has probably waned a little bit, I've actually gone the other direction, and I'm almost, I would say, not an ambivert really, but an introvert. Um, and more, I find that large social gatherings, being social for long periods of time, being in large crowds, all of that actually drains me significantly. And it's just a matter of just having had to be on my whole life up to that point and probably
mhm,
fighting what were really introverted tendencies. So, um, what I would say to that is, um, my wife, on the other hand, she's kind of swung the other way. Now, she's still very introverted, definitely needs time alone, definitely needs recharging. But she actually can feel energized. If she gets home from a really good experience with her friends, oftentimes she'll be wired and she'll be laughing and she won't necessarily be ready to go to sleep, even if she gets home later at night and past her bedtime or whatever, because she's had such a good experience in that situation that it's provided her with kind of like a surge of energy, right?
that makes sense.
And so I I think we get tied to these labels and we really can't be because like it said, it really a lot of times I think it depends on the situation because there's so many different factors that go into how you're responding in any given situation.
Mm,
Um, are there people you're comfortable with? Those kinds of things. So, um, if you remember, uh, we talked about. I feel like I lost my place.
that's okay.
Oh,
That's okay.
we're gonna do an introvert, extrovert, ambivert test.
Oh
Uh,
my, is it graded on a curve? Here we go.
yeah, we'll call it an assessment. How about that?
Okay,
I'm always telling people don't call it a test because then they think they can fail. There's no right or wrong answer. This is just an assessment. Okay.
that's
Um,
okay. All right.
all right. So you've been at a wedding. It's been however long it's been, and the DJ announces that there's just one more hour of music before they shut this place down. So an introvert's response. Well, first of all, how would you feel about that?
For me, it really depends. I have been to weddings where I'm kind of in my groove and I'm comfortable and I'm enjoying it and I'm gonna go all the way to the end and feel good. And there's been other times, it's probably if I don't know many people and I'm feeling more uncomfortable, then I'm like ready to get the heck out of there. Just kind of depending on the vibe and how crowded it is, and
Mhm.
if it's really noisy. If it's too loud, I want to get out. If the music is taking over, this is more ADHD. If the music is taking over my focus and I can't have a conversation with somebody, I can't hear them because not even because the music's too loud, but it's just too distracting. I'm like, I got to get out of here because I can't have conversations and I got to go.
Yeah, I would say so. So to me, that sounds more like an ambivert response, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Because it depends, right? It depends on what all is happening in the moment, and I think that's probably the case for everybody. However, I will say, even when I know people, even when I'm having a good time, I would say that I personally have a limit for events like that. And
Mm,
I'm generally pushed past that limit if it's like family, right? But I personally have a limit for events like that. And I typically will find ways to be able to get breaks or disassociate myself because I I get overwhelmed. So like this reminds me I have some editing to do. I was at my brother-in-law's wedding recently, and I realized that I actually offered to help film his wedding. And what that did for me is it gave me a task to focus on, and it created a way for me to isolate a little bit. Oh, I need to go change a battery. I'm going to go duck into the room and change
Mhm.
a battery. Or, oh, I'm going to go over here and take B-roll footage. I have hours of B-roll footage that I'm never going to use because sometimes it was just, I'm just going to go
Right.
get by myself and take some B-roll. Right.
Yep.
And so I've realized that I will create scenarios by where I can actually get some alone time or get away from it and be just kind of by myself for a few minutes. And there have been times in all kinds of situations where I've had to do that. Um,
Let me. I want that reminds me. I want to give it a little story. I've given this a number of time over the years when it comes to this topic. Back in my 20s, I joined. I signed up online for through a mega church in the area that I'd been going to a little bit for a singles, like a post college age singles gathering, and it would take place at like a host home for somebody from the church that had a big house that wanted to let the group use it, and 30 to 50 singles would meet like every other Sunday for 5 or 6 meetings, and it was mostly just to get to know each other, and it had real light, like we watch a little video and have a discussion, but it wasn't churchy. It was mostly just a social thing to meet each other and have snacks and whatever. And okay, cool. I'm going to go to this thing. Well, I sign up and they give me the time, the date, and the address. Cool. And I'm going, and the closer I get, I'm getting nervous. I don't know anybody. They probably don't know anybody either. I don't know. But this is the first one. I don't know anybody. All I know is that they're in a similar age and season of life. That's all I know. And I get to the house, and there's just cars, parked up and down the street in the suburb in the neighborhood, and I'm like frozen. I can't do this. And I see people getting out of their cars and walking to the house, and I'm like, I can't do this.
mm,
I can't do it. And I turned around and I left. I didn't get out of
interesting.
the car. I sat there for 5 minutes, and I wanted to, but I just couldn't do it. And I left. And that was it. Fast forward to later in the year. Same thing. They did this thing like 3 times a year. I signed up again. But this time when I signed up, there was a little option that said, check here if you are willing to volunteer at the event to give out name tags or to put out snacks or whatever. Just put a little checkbox if you're willing to do that. So, okay, I put the checkbox. This time, somebody contacted me before the first one
Hmm.
and said, can you do name tags? And I said, sure. And they said, well, cool. Here's the address and the date and the time, but just be here 30 minutes early. Now I got
Mm,
there, but everything was different because I had a role to play, a
right.
little one, but I had
Right.
a role to play. So now
Hmm.
I'm not just walking in one of the group, I'm walking in volunteer hat, invisible volunteer hat. And now I'm at the table with the name tags. And so now the people that are coming up, they're new. I'm new. We're all new. But I'm the one who reaches out first and says, hi, how are you doing? Here, take
Hmm.
a name tag.
Hmm.
It changed everything. By the end of that 5 session cycle, I felt so comfortable that I signed up to be the leader of one the next time. And
Oh
I was the
wow.
leader of one for the next 3 years. It
Wow.
changed everything. It didn't change that I was shy or introverted, but I had a role to play. And that
Mm.
is true to this day when it comes to events at work or anywhere else. If I have something that I'm supposed to do as a volunteer, a contributor, I've got to make a phone call, I've got to gather other people, I've got to something, I'll do it. But if I'm just showing up as a normal person, 50-50, if I even walk in the door.
Wow. Well, Billy, I have good news. I have a proposal for you. We're gonna go to Dragon Con as volunteers.
Hey.
Because I now that you're saying that, I realize I like that better too. And
Mhm.
I feel weird about going to a weird conference where I don't know anybody and that stretches all of downtown Atlanta. Oh, wait, that's our next question. Um, how about like, have you ever been on conferences with other people?
Conferences?
Like, like a work conference or a work event? All right. So here's the situation. You're in a conference, all the sessions are finished, and your coworkers say, "Hey, let's go get dinner." What's your gut reaction?
That's tricky for me, and the response is in my head at least is automatically no. And the reason is I can't think of anything more awkward in my life and in my past than eating meals with coworkers, whether I've known them for 10 years or not. I don't know why, but sitting around a table with coworkers, with very few exceptions, are we supposed to be talking about work? Or I don't know what to talk about, or somebody will say, like, "Did you see that football game?" And I'm like, I don't watch sports. I don't know if I'm supposed to fake it and come up with stuff. And typically, especially because I'm in IT, the rest of them are just sitting. Even out of the gate, everybody's just on their phone,
Right.
and probably just because that is like our immediate little pacifier in social situations. And
Mhm, mhm.
I would just rather bypass it, like one on one or messaging. I'm good, but the in person meals with coworkers has always been like awful for me.
I've had several experiences where I've had to take clients to dinner.
Mm.
Um, and I actually prefer that to like the pub crawling with your coworkers.
And
Uh,
that's dangerous for other
yeah,
reasons.
you can get yourself into a lot of trouble with the pub
Hmm.
crawling with coworkers. But I've had both experiences. Um, and I would say that um, I don't mind going to a meal, right? And this is where I think I fall. So like if you're the kind of person who's like, no, I'm really tired and you're gonna order Uber and go to your room,
Hmm.
that's the introverted thing to do. And you had mentioned that's like, oh, that's my first thought, right?
Yes. Yep.
I don't mind the dinner part, but I don't like necessarily going out after dinner and like going to bars and doing karaoke and whatever else shenanigans you might get up to with your coworkers. Even if I really like my coworkers, that's not necessarily my scene.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've done that last one, the extrovert version, once or twice, and it never worked well for me. I didn't really love that. But I will say I don't mind having dinner with a client, having dinner with coworkers. Um, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Oftentimes, I think my involvement has either been really close coworker friends, like at a company dinner, or it's been clients where you're talking about client stuff, you're trying to build rapport. But yeah, I would say I fall in the middle of the road on that one. Uh, I don't necessarily need to go out and be buddy buddy and best friends with anybody because what happens typically is I end up being like the referee and feeling like, oh, I'm the sober one, so I got to make sure everybody gets home okay,
Right.
that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily my idea of fun.
With all of this, just in general, social skills and the ability to carry conversation and small talk and all of this, is it something, do you think, that can be practiced and improved, or are some people just social butterflies and other people need to just not even bother? What do you think?
I definitely think it's something that you can get better at, and this is a really interesting communication hack, I would say, like a hack for situations like this, especially if you're introverted. We get um, I think we get caught up with this idea that I'm going to have to physically interact, like speak and all that with people a lot. And if you're in a large group, you don't necessarily have to put all that pressure on yourself. And I do think that makes it easier. But one of the things that introverts tend to be really good at is just listening and being curious.
Hmm.
And you can kind of move into that mode where, hey, this is like being with one or two close friends, and I'm not going to worry about I don't need to tell people all about me. I don't need to put all that pressure on myself to perform. I'm just going to be curious and I'm going to
Yeah.
ask questions and if not only is that a good way to lower the pressure and give you a little bit more energy to carry on, but it makes you the most interesting person in the room. because to everybody else, the most interesting person in the room is one, the person that we don't know as much about, and two, the person who shows us the most interest. Um, and so it really is actually, I think, something that introverts excel at. And I've noticed that because naturally, I would say believe it or not, Billy, I'm a talker. Um,
We both can be in the right setting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can be all the time. Um, if I don't have somebody to talk to, I'm going to talk to myself typically. But my wife is really, really good and really, really interesting because she's so good at being curious and connecting with people through asking good questions and just listening and remembering the little things. And that's something she intentionally does when she's communicating with people. And I think it is something that she has really made a study of and worked on and gotten so good at. And she's comfortable in so many more situations now than she was even when we met. I mean, we met when we were in our early 20s, so we were basically kids. And she's so good at interacting with people, being in those environments, and it's something she has just made a study of and has
Mhm.
grown in her whole life, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to, like anything, to practice and improve. And I've in my life at times fallen out of practice, like
Mm,
with COVID, for example, and some other seasons, just fell out of practice. And then some scenario I would have been comfortable in, I'm like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah." That's one of the unexpected benefits that I found on and off over the years with driving Uber on the side was
mm,
it helped me improve just having conversations with all sorts of people. And, there's the famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the principles there are like, uh, they work, you know, for anybody all the time, pretty much. And so much of it is just the basics, but it does take practice showing genuine interest in other people's lives, in their work, in their opinions, um, focusing on them, right? And I think sometimes I'll make it personal. When I'm nervous, I will often talk faster and talk more and
mm,
fill the silence and fill the gaps
mhm,
because I'm nervous.
mhm,
But if I can slow down and focus on the other person, especially if there's a lot of other stuff going around, just focus on the other person and showing genuine interest and asking the follow up questions and talking about what they're interested in, even if it takes a little bit of, you know, exploring to figure out what they like, and to smile and to, if I'm nervous, I might, even if I'm not on the outside, it looks like it. Smile and
mhm.
using the open body language and making people feel welcome. Like I'm interested in what they have to say,
Right.
and I try to find some way to compliment them.
Mhm,
Not flattery, but like compliment them. Like,
mhm.
oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more about what you something like that, right? And just listening more than talking. So those are some areas that it for me it definitely helps to have the practice to go out and to practice these conversational skills. And then it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I'll make mistakes, I'll fumble over things, but I try to say, "Ooh, I was wrong. Sorry about that. Thanks for pointing that out." Or, "Oh, I'm talking too much. Let me stop. Tell me more." It's okay even to correct myself. You know what I
Right.
mean? And to
Mhm.
stop in the moment. And it's worth doing because then it builds the confidence and the other person gets benefit out of it as well, right?
Right.
Like, I love whenever I'm able to have a short interaction with a stranger and then it doesn't fall apart. I'm like, okay, good. That was a good thing. That was a good one. That was a good one. And then let's try it again. And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna try it again on the next person and just practice.
Mhm. Agreed. 100%. I will say though, there are most times I will say that getting pad thai, DoorDash pad thai to my hotel room and just watching Netflix is typically the thing that I look forward to the most at work
But
conferences
but
and
it doesn't have to be a cop out. It can be a reward.
that's right. I
Like,
was I was nice to people all day and I was
yeah.
interacting all day.
Right.
I'm gonna go get me some Thai food I'm gonna watch me some Netflix. There you go. Okay, so this one was hard for me when I was a pastor in Montana. We lived in a town of about 5,000 people. And so every time I go to the one grocery store in that town that we had, it wasn't really 5,000 people. Now I think about it, it was like 1,200 people who like lived there, and then like 3,700 or 3,800 students that went to the University of Montana campus there. Anyway, long story short, you could not go to the grocery store. You couldn't go to Safeway without seeing somebody that you knew. And this is your automatic flag that maybe you're not as extroverted as you thought. I did not love running into people that I knew at the grocery store. Still don't. So what do you do when you go to a grocery store? And if I don't even know if this has happened to you before living in Atlanta, but have you ever run into somebody you know at the grocery store, or somebody you know, like maybe don't know well, but you know you should know them? How do you handle that typically?
It's yeah, it definitely has happened, and I think I have a fear around the anxiety of the possibility of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do. I always have. I've at times I've been afraid of, like, "Oh, what if I bump into an ex-girlfriend?" Or, "Oh, I'm gonna be in this part of town, and I used to hang out with this group, and it got awkward, and I don't anymore, but what if I bump into one of them?" Even if the chances are slim, and so I think about that. If I actually see somebody, if I see them first, I'm definitely gonna go the other way, even if there's nothing to be afraid of, because 'cause I'm not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
How am I dressed? When's the last time they saw me? What I'm filing through my brain, remembering, like, are we on good terms? What I like, it's without the prep, without the it makes me nervous even thinking about it right now.
So what's your natural reaction? Would you say you're like hiding in the cooler, like putting your head in the cooler so they don't recognize you? Or
Yes,
are you, yeah, I am too,
100%.
honestly. It's really tough. I just ran into somebody I knew. It's a friend of my wife's. We used to homeschool in the same community together, and the wonderful people. Love her husband. Would love to have them over for dinner, hang out with them, do anything with them. But I've run into her and I've run into her husband both. Yeah, and I've been in like a small group with her husband before. Um, and still running into that person in the grocery store to me is like the worst possible thing I can think of, because it's not a place where I want to have a conversation.
Right.
It's a place where I just want to get my groceries and go home. And so that to me, I don't care how much I know this person, what I know about the person, how good of friends we are. If I'm seeing them in the grocery store, the likelihood is, and I hope nobody gets offended by this, I'm gonna like try to avoid making eye contact and pretend I don't see you. That's just the way I am.
This is probably the number one thing that would make me never, in theory, want to be some celebrity, is that
Hmm.
people that you've never met are gonna recognize you in public and have all kinds of probably awkward interactions and want a selfie or talk to you like they've known you forever, and, like, you know, I'm very happy being anonymous.
Yeah. Okay. So here's okay. What does it say about me that to me does not necessarily make me nervous?
Okay?
I'm okay with that. Like I could be famous and sign autographs and take selfies or whatever. I'm cool with that. But if I have to have a 2 minute or a 5 minute conversation with somebody that I know or I barely know about the weather or about how their life is or any of that, that just puts me over the edge, man. I don't know what it is. And so I don't know if it's, I mean, I think I like attention. I don't know that I'm uh, super drawn to like those kinds of micro connections, unintentional or happenstantial micro connections, we'll call them. That to me feels like I don't know. I have so much fear around it. I don't even know why. It doesn't make sense.
So you want, like, a one-time only chance encounter with somebody who recognizes you and you'll never see him again, or the deep relationship where you're prepared and you're comfortable, but not the little one in the middle.
Yeah, which
Okay.
is weird because I feel like most of my interactions are the one in the middle in other environments.
Probably
But the
everybody,
grocery
really.
store,
Yeah.
yeah, the grocery store and the movie theater and places I go, in public, those are the places where I'm like, "Oh, this is awkward. I don't like it."
Mhm.
I don't know why. That's so strange. All
Yeah,
right.
and part of it to me is I don't like surprises. I
Mhm.
if even if it's something that's ridiculous and silly, if I'm prepared for it, I just feel better. But don't show up at my door and knock, even if I've known you for 20 years, or don't. I don't know. Just I've got to have the ability to say yes, I will, or no, I don't want to, rather than face to face, and had no choice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it does come down to that. All right. So you just talked about this. Well, let me ask you: did you go to that music festival by yourself, or did you go with somebody else?
No, I went with a group, and it was a stretch for me. A friend of mine who we were friends many, many years ago and have just been friends online, but not hung out in person. And it was her friend group. And so I was introduced in a group chat. And so uh, it was certainly nerve wracking for me to just show up and think, I hope I can fit in and whatever. And it turned out to be fine. And we're going to go do more things. And I felt like I fit into the group okay. Uh, but I would not have gone alone, I don't think. Although I used to go to concerts alone because I would love the band so much and nobody wanted to go. And I just went. But yeah, it was definitely a stretch at first. And then I slowly felt comfortable. And, it's like, if you're not courageous, pretend to be, because nobody knows the difference. And I had to think that in my head. They
Mhm.
don't know me. They don't know that I'm introverted and shy and socially awkward. They might figure it out pretty soon, but I can try to be brave, and I was, and it was okay.
Yeah. I tell my kids this all the time with things like this because when you have homeschool kids, there's going to be social anxiety that exists. And I mean, I think when you have any kids, I mean, you put a kid in any situation where there's stakes and there's going to be some social anxiety. It doesn't matter if they're homeschooled or public school or whatever.
Mhm.
But I always say, can you do 5 seconds of fear or a lifetime of regret? Which one?
Ooh, I never heard that. I like that.
We learned that from Dude Perfect. Shout out Dude Perfect. But yeah, 5 seconds fear or a lifetime of regret, because that's often your choice. Like, what if, uh, there's some really magic connection in that friend group, and because you chose to fake it till you made it with that friend group, now you have friends that you'll have for life. You don't know because if you just stayed home or chickened out of it, you would miss out and you would never know.
Mm.
Um, now you said you were in bed all day Sunday. How long does recovery from something like that typically take you?
It that varies too, man. That varies too. I think I know this part. I know for me, it is cumulative.
Mm,
So if I have been resting and taking care of myself and not exerting and being social for several days in a row, then like I've built up my stores, and I can go
mhm,
do something and then have a relatively small kind of recovery, if at all. But if I'm constantly, even if they are all comfortable, wonderful, successful encounters, right? So it's not like something went bad. Even if it's successful and wonderful and happy and encouraging and exciting, but if I do that enough times in a row without, then finally it's like bam, it's going to hit me and I'm going to have to take that break. So I think this weekend it was a relatively short recovery. I still ended up the next day going out and seeing a buddy for lunch and coming back. So it was reasonable. Part of it was also because I haven't done a 5K in my life, and physically I needed to I needed to rest. But yeah, I can't just go 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 socially and then expect not to pay the bill.
yeah, yeah, I feel you, and that's how I am too. And actually, so for me, I usually try, even though a lot of times my brain gets in the way and I can't regulate my sleep and I don't get to sleep on time, but I usually try to lower my interactions and get good rest on Saturday nights because I know I'm going to be at church on Sunday morning.
Mm.
And then honestly, almost every Sunday without fail, I am exhausted by noon. And it's because that's a high interaction with people who I care about, with people who care about me. And so it's a lot of an energy spent on being around people who I get to interact with, right? I almost said have to, and that's not really what I mean, but like people who I want to interact with, people who I want to be known by, who want to know me, um, who I want to know. And so that for me is incredibly draining. And then when I get home after an event like that, which is every week, I am like shot. And in
Does it make it
fact, go ahead.
does it make a difference for you work-wise, whether it's working remote versus in an office, whether it's working, more on Zoom versus in person in front of clients? Does any of that play into it with the type of role that you're working in any given season?
You know what's interesting is I was always, even when I was coaching on Zoom all the time, I was very drained at the end of the day. 6,
Because you're
8,
still
10
on.
meetings a day. You're
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah.
Camera's
Yeah.
on, you're talking, you're interacting, right? And a lot of times it's with people who maybe it might be hostile or might be, like unfeeling or uncaring or apathetic, right? Or people who might be actually genuinely interested in growing, but you get all kinds. When I'm on the road, I actually like that so much better from a balance perspective,
Mm.
because let's say I'm going to go visit 2 or 3 customers today, right? Well, I'm going to have drive time in between all of those interactions, so the
Mhm.
interactions may be 2 hours of straight interacting, straight move, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
then I'm going to have an hour that I'm just going to be in the car. I'm going to decompress. I'm going to dictate my notes or whatever. I'm going to move on to the next thing, listen to my podcast, listen to a book, whatever. I'm going to have some time in between those interactions to decompress. And that makes a big difference for me. Just having those little tiny, even if they're incremental breaks, I feel like that makes a difference for me.
Rather than having on an Outlook just back to back to back to back without breathing room.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
I was at a point where, like, in my coaching job, I would have my lunch break blocked off and I wouldn't eat. I would just go lay down and close my eyes, not sleep, just lay
Mm.
down and close my eyes, shut my ears, close my door so nobody can talk to me and I can't hear anything and I can't be disturbed. And that was like the only way that I could make it, because it's
Mm.
just it was too much interaction constantly all the time. So
So
yeah,
that makes me think, does remote in general, does remote work help introverted people, or does it make isolation even worse?
I don't, that's a great question, because what's funny is I feel more fulfilled not being in the office all the time, because I did feel isolated, but I still felt drained. Do you
That
ever
makes
run into
sense.
that?
Yeah.
Where you feel isolated, but at the end of the day, you still feel drained if you have a lot of interaction. So it's like you're getting all the worst parts of socialization and none
Mhm.
of the benefits of socialization, right?
Right. Yeah. For me, and I don't have it right now, but I think the hybrid model is best because it's balance.
Hmm.
Having a couple of days in an office with coworkers and then having a couple days remote uh, would be a good balance. And the word is balance, and it's something that I
Mm.
strive to find, and I fail to do more often than not. In general, in life. So the way it looks like for me in general is I want to go and have the social interactions, whether it's small talk or whether it's deep relationships. I want the interaction. I crave it. I'm a social person. I feel good when I have a connection. And then I do it too much. I get excited, especially if it goes well. I do it too much. I don't take the downtime to recharge. And I think I can go, go, go. And then I hit the wall. And then I go, who am I kidding? Have I even been faking it this whole time? And then I go the pendulum swings wide. I go the other extreme and I start canceling everything for the next week or two. And then I'm isolating because I need the rest because I haven't been taking the rest that I need to. And now I'm isolated and I'm by myself. And I'm like, well, I'll just do this. I'll just do this. But then I get lonely. And so it goes, swings back and forth instead of having the healthy balance. It's like, and then people who know me, you know this as well as anyone, people who know me well, inside or outside of work, are like, well, what version of him am I going to get today or this week or this month? Is he the social Billy that's like engaged and dialed in and fun to hang out with and talk to, or is he going to be missing in action and cancel and introverted and shy and all this stuff? And man, the balance is hard to strike.
It is. It is hard to strike. And I think the most important thing I would say for anybody, I think as you get older, you get to know yourself more. You can do this a little bit better. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But I think the key is to always seek that balance, to seek that middle ground. What is the right mix of, am I taking care of myself? Am I taking care of others? Am I known by other people? Am I feeling seen? Am I feeling heard? Um, do I feel belonging? But also, do I have that time that I need? Just, hey, man, I need to be by myself. You know what I mean? I think you're right, Billy. Like the most important thing I think we can all do is just try to strike a solid balance, right?
Yep. Yep.
And make sure that we are experiencing the balance we need and also providing balance for others when they need it, right?
Yes.
So if I know you're not into being to hanging out, I don't want to push it because I know what you need in that moment. And I think that's how we make sure that we're caring for ourselves, we're caring for other people, and everybody gets a little better that way.
And that's why I like you. And that's why I wish more of my friends had the insights that you do. And maybe they will if they watch this episode.
There you
Um,
go.
so we're going to do a quick activity and then we'll take it home. So we do this a lot, the rapid fire. We're going to do an
Hmm.
introvert edition. And so we're going to go through several of these quickly and just answer them without thinking too much and see kind of where we land. Introvert edition. Okay. All right. So
All right, here we go.
text or phone call? Which one
Text.
is it? Same. One close friend or group of acquaintances?
It depends. I can't say I can't go one way or the other on that because there are groups of friends that I really enjoy being with all together, but then there are people who I really enjoy being with just by myself, just
Gotcha.
the two of us.
I'm a one close friend through and through. I'd rather have the handful of individual close friendships than any group, although I see the value of groups. Concert or house party?
Concert,
I think yeah.
unless it's my house. If it's somebody
Okay,
else's house,
okay.
it's
There it
better.
is. There it is. Yep. If you can be the host, it's different. Yep.
Yeah.
Solo road trip or group vacation?
Oh, this is hard.
Mm.
What would you say?
I have definitely gone over the years from group vacations with groups of friends, although they were great, to solo. Now I will go to other countries by myself and I love it.
Yeah, I am feeling that way too. I'm actually thinking like, uh, uh, I was wondering the other day, like, okay, it's probably weird for two guy friends to go on a cruise together, but could I go on a cruise by myself and not look like a creep? Is that possible? I don't
I've been
know.
on a solo cruise and I
I,
probably did look like a creep, but it was okay. It was fun.
just sitting at the buffet eating by yourself. People are gonna think that, man, that guy's weird.
Yeah. Well, I for me in particular on a solo cruise, I hung out at the piano bar where the guy would play the piano and sing songs, and there was an older retired lady that was also there alone, and we sat next to each other every night for hours, and we sang, and we became friends, and we're still friends, and she's probably 80 now, but so
How
yeah,
funny.
it's fun. Are you one who prefers to arrive early, or are you fashionably late?
I prefer to arrive early, and that's new for me. I used to be late all the time, but I married somebody who is very good at being on time, and now I have a real hard time being late.
Yeah, same. I feel much more comfortable if I can arrive early and get a lay of the land before other people arrive, whatever it is. Small dinner or a large celebration?
All day long.
Definitely, definitely. Deep conversation or playful nonsense?
Ooh, see, that one's hard. I like them both.
Yes.
I do like them both. I think I tend to playful nonsense a little bit more because I'm a guarded person, probably.
Yep, yep. For me, the playful nonsense is easier, and the deep
Mhm.
conversation is more difficult, but they are both rewarding for different ways, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so quiet weekend or packed itinerary?
Quiet weekend now. Yeah.
This is back to where I swing back and forth. If I do too many quiet weekends, I feel like I'm missing out and I'm lonely. And then if I have too much stuff packed, then I'm overwhelmed and I can't be in the moment and enjoy it. Uh, are you the one who leaves without saying goodbye, or do you do like the goodbye tour?
I would say it depends. If I know people or my presence is known significantly, then I will do the goodbye tour, but if I can Irish goodbye it, I will totally do it.
Yeah, I'm worse with the goodbyes than the hellos. And people have told me, "You just disappeared. What was wrong?" And I'm like, "I just left. I just left. Nothing was wrong. I just left. I don't want to do it." Um, what about a stranger at your door or an unknown number calling you?
Unknown number because I can just ignore that.
Right?
I never want a stranger at my door. People come to my door now, and I'm like, What are you doing? Like, this is not. We don't do this in 2026."
Yes, that's true. That is true. So as we wrap up, just a few kind of final questions, this topic is such a good topic. I'm sure we should pick this up again in the future. I think a lot of people relate to it. Um, So, what do you genuinely like? And I'm assuming you do, but if not, not. What do you genuinely like about being introverted as you've discovered this about yourself, Joe?
Um, I I personally enjoy the freedom that being alone brings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Freedom of thought, freedom of itinerary, freedom of exploration. Like, there's just a lot of freedom when you're on your own, and you're not having to go with the flow or, you know, account for other people or interact. There's just a lot of freedom in just being on your own, and I do enjoy that. That's for me, that's a big piece of it.
Do you think it's strengthened your creativity or your independence at all? And if
Absolutely.
so, like especially with the independence part, how does that work with being a family man?
That's a great question. I used to feel a lot of guilt about be like, uh, and because I've worked from home for 10 plus years now.
Mm,
Um, and so when I early on, but pre-COVID, I would say I spent too much time with my family, and not by myself because I wasn't super comfortable by myself, or I'd get bored or I would get distracted. Now, I mean, we've gotten into such a rhythm with it, that it doesn't. I'm always very clear, like, hey, I am doing X. I'm don't come in and disturb me while I'm in this mode or whatever. And so it's not uncommon for me to take those times and go be, you know, isolated, and get done what needs to be getting done. And that does help, I think, a lot of times.
mm, definitely. So, um, as we close up, here is kind of a closing thought. Uh, being an introvert doesn't mean you don't like people. I think that is one thing to hammer home for people who consider themselves extroverted and don't get us as the introvert. It doesn't mean you don't like people. It just sometimes mean you like people best in manageable doses and preferably with a clearly stated end time.
Hmm.
We still
Hmm.
like people, but we just do it differently. So, we want to ask you guys out there who are listening the same question we started with. Would you rather speak in front of 1,000 people from a stage or make small talk with 20 strangers at a gathering, at a barbecue, whatever it is? Let us know in the comments. Where do you find yourself? Is this a struggle for you? Are you figuring it out? Does this resound with you? And do you understand people who are introverted, or do you find us strange? Just let us know what your thoughts are.
It just occurred to me how that question is written. I think I know a lot of introverts who'd be like, neither of those, please. I don't want to do either of those things.
Right.
But yeah, I gotta say, as I've gotten older, I've come to really love introverted folks, and now being one, or now realizing I am one. But just, I mean, I think there's so much richness, and there's so much that we can learn from folks who are introverted, because they tend, I would say, to live slightly more balanced lifestyles than the extroverts do. And they also tend to be the people who genuinely have the most care and concern for the world around them. It's like you, Billy, you said it, a handful of really close friends versus never met a stranger. You're going to select a handful of really close friends, and there's something really unique. All extroverts need a couple of good introverted friends to keep them grounded and to know them well, I would say.
And the introverts need the extroverts to pull us out of our little cocoons and to introduce us to others and get us to get out of our comfort zones and see the world a little bit more. So
100%.
we need each other.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight on the Open Tabs podcast. We are glad that you're here. Please subscribe, like, do the alert thingy. I keep hearing people say this. You can actually watch these videos and see them in your feed without being subscribed, and that's fine too. We don't care. But if you'd like to subscribe and follow us, we would love for you to do that. And let us know in the comments, 1,000 people from a stage or a small talk with 20 strangers at a barbecue. Which one are you? Or neither, maybe. Thanks so much. You guys have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.